Smith Terrace. That's Clementon. But with the CYA vendor show on May 6th, it did work out very well, even with the clean communities. It was a very successful day for us. We raised over $1,200 for the CYA. But two other things I wanted to address today. One, I wanted to, at the Dan Doherty ball field, we don't have a phone line there. I talked to the phone company, and they did say that somebody, I guess through the borough, has to actually contact them to have a phone line put in case of an emergency. There was a line there before. It must have been a phone years ago, and it hasn't been active or anything. There was a hookup for it. I don't know exactly what has to be done, but it's a safety concern that if somebody gets hurt, there's no landline to call 911 from there. That was my first thing. The second thing was I was just checking on the status of our previous conversation about the playground equipment at Dan Doherty Field.
Christine, before you got here, I did bring up to council about doing the ball fields in the back. Unfortunately, the contractors that we talked about that said that you can't really plant hydro seed till the fall, okay. So we're not going to be able to do that. But I also brought up or requested to council that I be able to put together a small committee of residents to help bring issues like that to council with recommendations of equipment, how to do things. And they did agree to allow me to put together a committee like that. So the committee will then make the suggestions to council about those types of things, make recommendations, and council then can either choose to listen or not on those types of things and go with that. So that's how I believe we're going to proceed on those issues that you brought up about the playground equipment and those types of things for those fields.
Sounds good.
Our school uses the soccer fields over in Pine Hill across from Overbrook, so I don't know if they have a connection that they pay. But
that's where I'm going to have to find a suitable fields, and even with the field size that I'm going to need for instructional soccer are small. It's approximately 30 by 20 yards per field. So we may even be able to do it in the outfields of either Carver or East Clementon. I'm going to go out and actually measure out and see what I can fit. But figuring that we'd have to get a couple of those fields together to do it right. But that's an issue more for us as a youth association to try to figure out. And then if we need to contact Pine Hill and see if we can use one of their fields, or Lindenwald has fields over off United States Avenue that are borough owned, and we could speak to Mayor Roach over there and see if he'd allow us.
The number of fields at the middle school we used to use for baseball, and they're all pretty close there.
So we'll figure that out without doing it. But as far as the issues you brought forward to us previously, we will address them, and I'm hoping that you in particular will be one of the members of the committee. So.
Just root me in any way you can, right, Mark?
I've been trying for years.
Any other comments from the floor? Fred? Fred, sorry.
Go ahead.
The lot that you're selling for $29,000, do you have a rough figure of how many square foot that is, or a size of any kind?
I don't think we have it with us.
The 50 by
or is it
48 by 150. The one they're slightly undersized lots, Fred. They're adjacent to someone's home, and it's my understanding that that's the minimum bid that the appraiser has assigned to those lots. It's not necessarily saying they're going to sell for that amount. One was for $18,000 and one was for $7,000.
the one for
$28,000.
the 29,000 is 117.83 feet by 150 feet, roughly. It's like a triangle.
But is that it? Is that what we put as the R5 zone, which has to be 1 acre by 1 acre or something like that?
It's an R2 zone.
R2, then that's buildable then.
I'm sorry, you said it was 150 foot deep?
Correct. 150.
Yes. It's 117 feet across the front, 150 deep on the left-hand side, 170 feet deep on the right-hand side, and it looks to be 37.85 feet across the back. I have from the tax map.
Yeah, it's an odd size lot, but
it
comes out.
from the tax map.
That would be what, about 0.4 acres, something like that? Am I wrong?
I'm not sure.
Is it R2 then?
Somewhere around
Yes, sir.
there.
Yes.
R2.
Three,
15,000 square feet,
Yeah.
100
About
foot.
That-
$1.25.
Is it
yeah.
100 foot?
There's a
frontage?
specific reason I'm asking. You got a
Yes.
price here of
It's close.
29,000. I doubt very much if you'll ever get it. But I have 0.5 acres and I'm assessed at 53,000. That's my purpose for asking where the figure came from.
I
Now,
would suggest that we talk to Chip Warrington on that, Fred. He's the
I
one
have, but there's-
that does the appraiser. I don't know how he figures this out.
yeah, well, Chick didn't do it, obviously. It was done during reevaluation.
No, but for this price, he gave the price, our suggested sale price.
Yeah, this should be market, not assessed value. This should be market
Yeah,
value.
it's just market value, it's fair market value.
Come on, give me a difference, will you? I mean, that's a difference without a distinction. That- If you're assessed,
No, there's
if you're
assessed
assessed at it,
values.
that's what the assessor would expect you to sell. I mean, that's fairly obvious, isn't it?
Well, assessed values are historically lower than market value, except when you have a revaluation. In the year of the reval,
Yeah.
they're pretty close. But as you get removed from the reval, the market value rises above what the assessed value is.
With the exception that we're going the opposite way now, and I think you know that. Anyhow, that's satisfied.
And there are other issues there. If I know the property correctly, there's issues with topography of how buildable the lot is. And I believe it slopes off fairly steep from the street into the property where, although it may be a buildable sized lot, it may take a lot of improvement to the property to actually be able to put a home there.
Okay, anyhow, I was just wondering what how you evaluated a square foot or per acre or whatever. The other question I had was for Councilman Weaver. I was wondering if we're able to reveal any information at all from the secret meetings you're having with the county.
We are very close, and there's a good possibility that after an executive meeting this evening, we'll be able to come out and reveal
Where we are with everything.
where we are with those.
And this would be I'm assuming exactly what it is the borough would get out of this and what the county gets out of this. In other words, have you done some sort of, let's say, cost benefit to the town out of this?
That would all be in the process. Tonight, what would be if council decides to go take action, or not take action, but, what's the proper wording? Approves to go ahead for, to introduce ordinances next month. What we'd be willing to do tonight is disclose what some of the details of that will be. As part of that, I believe that we're in the process of working up financial figures that would show the tax benefits to the municipality and to the county that would be supporting documents to the recapture agreement. So I
And then
believe
you
that would
think-
all be available, I believe, by next month.
By next month.
I believe.
Maybe, that might not be until the month after, it depends on how
What
quickly
we
the
get everything
county can
introduced in
get,
the
because the
paperwork.
county has to move.
But it will be in short time
Let
afterwards.
me ask you this, if I may. Why is there confidentiality when you have two governing bodies who are negotiating something that's of vital interest to the taxpayer? I mean, it's not that there is something, let's say, so confidential that it would affect anyone or should affect anyone unless there is something within that negotiation which comes out to be a superior benefit for one party or the other. I mean, I don't understand what the confidentiality is.
Some of the things in there are exactly as you stated, Fred, are that where it could be that we have a stance of what we tell them we're willing to go to and what we actually know we'll go to, and we want to put on a face that this is the bottom line when we know we might go a little further with something. So we don't want to reveal our true stance on things until we get our best deal for the residents of Clementon.
I understand what you're saying, but that's not what I mean. The actual value of what it is, that is in dollars and cents, is not as important as what it is. So what I'm saying is that for 6 years now, you've had a what it is regardless of what the benefit is. Now, if you come to a deal, I don't see how the town's ever gonna benefit out of it anyhow, but that's besides the point. What I'm talking about is there is a what here that has been going on for 6 years. And I just don't see that that part of it should be confidential. If you want to keep the monetary business confidential, that's one thing.
But I think we have spoken to the what. And the what is the sale of the property, sale prices, the recapture agreement. Those things have been made public time after time. Particularly the recapture agreement that's actually an existing document, was voted on by the governing body, is a public record.
Yeah,
So
okay,
they
I
haven't-
disagree with you friendly like it here.
Yeah, I understand.
The property was originally sold to the county, what, in 2004, 5, something like that?
2003, I believe, the Camden County Improvement Authority. Probably for a combination.
2003 it was sold, what, maybe around June or July, something in that order?
Some point in that realm, I believe.
Yeah, so there was an agreement then for the county to buy it, not from the borough, but from a private seller.
They took it to condemnation through the court system, and the court set a sales price.
But that's okay too, but I mean, they bought it from a private seller.
Yes.
Now they're negotiating with a contractor to build on that. Where does the borough fit in, except as the borough has ordinances which govern what can be built where? But where does the borough come in as a negotiator or even a party of interest?
Because when the county took it over, the planning board of the borough of Clementon had made it an area in need of redevelopment, which made the governing body the redevelopment agent. As part of the county of Camden purchasing the property, we had to turn over our right of being the redevelopment agent to them. As part of that, we did a resolution turning it over to them, but as part of it, we had final say on any development that would go there, which made us party to anything that was going to be put there. Furthermore, as the county did take it over, they did it in partnership with the borough to purchase the property, not legal, not a written partnership, but as a verbal partnership to support the municipality of Clementon to purchase the property because we didn't have the wherewithal to do it. There was an anticipation that the developer that was set up at the time, Kay Havdanian, would be able to purchase the property and take it over in short term with no cost to anybody. We were just acting as the agent to get the property to do it. When that fell through, because of things outside of our control, the cost started adding up. And at the time, because
the cost started that up for the county.
For the Improvement Authority, which isn't the county, that's the Camden County Improvement Authority, which is a separate entity.
That's essentially the county.
But the cost started adding up, and the anticipation was at that time that we expected it to be a project that would include a fair amount of retail space along with senior units that would have very little added cost to the borough, particularly school kids, those types of things. So at that point, we agreed with the county to go into a recapture agreement that the costs that were unanticipated, the cost of the interest, those types of things, would be paid for by this recapture agreement because there would be extra money coming because no school kids, that type of thing. We did sign a recapture agreement, I believe, 2007, and that was part of a public meeting, those type of things. So that was public.
Okay,
and at that point, the attorneys now tell us that that is a binding agreement that we're still stuck with.
But the recapture agreement then that you signed was for the benefit of the county, not the benefit of the town.
It was the only way that we could go ahead and sell the property, so it benefited the residents by getting the property sold because the property.
Well, that part hasn't been proven yet.
Well, the only way to prove it is by selling the property.
That's right.
The anticipation was that the value of the property was below what the investment into it was. So that if the Camden County Improvement Authority stuck to their guns and said, right now we have $3 million into the property and we bought it for 2.4, the developer will only buy it for 2.4, they're not gonna sell it because they owe more than that. So to sell it to a developer to get it going so that we had a positive cash flow coming in, we went into the recapture agreement because we knew that by doing that, the proceeds of the extra tax revenue would go to pay off that only, and that would be a positive cash flow to the borough. That was why we signed the recapture agreement at that
Well,
time.
the positive tax benefit to the borough has not been proven yet. I mean, that's got a long way to go. But secondarily, if you made a recapture agreement with the county, which in a sense helps them to defray the costs that they have involved in it, they can't lose. We can, but they can't. So I'm just wondering, look, I'll take that agreement with my property right now because I can't get a market value that it's assessed for. So if you want to make up differences for people, I'd be glad to take one for myself. You know, that'd be very handy. What is the legality of that borough taxpayer being on the hook for the problem that the county has of coming to an agreement? In other words, we're going to help the county defray that extra cost. What does the county, or what does the taxpayer get out of that?
I added revenue by getting.
You don't get any revenue on most of the property for at least 5 years. That's number one. Number two, there's the guy that was here talking about building it, even admitted that he's only going to have like 30 units built over a period of what, 10 years?
At this point, we're only responsible for paying 30% of increased revenue from taxes coming from that property. That leaves a margin of 70% that will be increased revenue to the borough at any given time. So there'll be increased revenue of 70% of tax dollars in, and the anticipation is that because of the size of the project, the only added cost to the municipality should only be things such as trash pickup and some of the things like that. We wouldn't, size wouldn't require more officers being hired, more fire trucks being purchased because it's not that big a development. So that we'd anticipate only the added cost of tipping fees and trash pickup would be the main things, and snow plowing if that had to be done on the roadways through there, but not the common parking lots, those types of things.
Yeah. You can give me an example of any place in town that's ever worked before. I'm sorry, that's enough, Mark. I mean,
And I'm not trying to sell you, I'm just telling you facts.
yeah.
All I'm
Okay, well, we'll get to some bottom line soon. By the way, I would just like to advise Councilman Weaver that he said that I signed off on that project going to the county. Never. You can ask my friend Mark right here. He and I went tooth and nail over that property for a long time. I never signed off on that. I don't know where you got the information, but it's incorrect.
Well, actually, we agreed, when I was on planning board, I agreed that that was an area of redevelopment. They misinterpreted that as we approved it. That's where that came from.
Could be.
I never approved it either.
Thank you, Mayor.
Two different terms.
Yeah.
Mr. Schmidt, you have
Thank you.
Gloucester City.
John Schmidt, Gloucester City, New Jersey. Good evening. My list kept growing throughout the meeting, and I'm now down to 6 points that I have tonight. I will attempt to be as brief as possible. I forgot 2 of them when I came in. Let me thank Councilman Avellino for reminding me of one by saying Carol Williams. It's Carol Andrews. I understand that Carol Andrews, her paycheck that she received for being a councilwoman in the first quarter came out to be $276 less, based off the, I guess, the borough's plans for mayor and council to have the tablet money and cell phone money come out of your salary. I do have a question regarding that. And correct me if I'm wrong, the only ordinance that was passed in regards to the salary of mayor and council was your salary ordinance in January, which was presided over by then Mayor Pro Tempore Andrews. Since then, now maybe you could have done it at a special budget meeting, change the salaries. You would have to do by ordinance, so you would have to have a second and final reading, which obviously I would have caught that. So, in short, has there been an ordinance amending your original ordinance, which this council adopted in regards to the salary ordinance? And if there hasn't been, then Carol Andrews, I believe, should be getting paid pursuant to your salary ordinance, which she would be entitled to, I believe, about $276. Can someone give me an update on that issue?
Well, we agreed to assume the cost of the iPad and a phone. All of us agreed to that. And then I don't know why she expected to be compensated when everybody agreed to it. Why should she be the
If you
exception?
agreed to it,
Huh?
if you agreed to it, where is that in ordinance? When you're dealing with, when you're taking money out of your salary, that has to be specified in your salary ordinance. It's not specified. The ordinance that was passed in January did not specify that. So until you go back and change that ordinance, so what you would have to do is create a salary range of, say, Councilman Avellino, you decided to take your cell phone and your tablet. So the total 12-month deduction would be, and whatever you're left with after you deduct 12 months of taking both, and then if you didn't take anything, you would have to create salary ranges for the salary of members of council, because your salaries would fluctuate depending on what that council person took. Since that has never been done through ordinance, the salary of the council member would be what the salary remains per the past ordinance, which means Carol Andrews is entitled to $276. So my question is the borough going to pay that?
Well, how about my $276 then, if the ordinance wasn't passed? Then we're all entitled to it.
It could be done by invoice. That's fine.
The salary ordinance changes amendment has been introduced and hasn't been passed.
Okay. When would that affect her? She's off. So is she entitled to that salary as what it was under the salary ordinance that existed when she left, when she worked for the borough?
Ask our solicitor that question.
I'm asking the governing body. I'm asking the governing body.
Salary ordinance was introduced, it hasn't been finally adopted yet, and council will take this under advisement, John, that's all I can tell you right now.
Okay. When she worked here, you had a salary ordinance. She left here.
I get your point, you don't need to lecture them, if you have questions, fine, but I don't think they need a lecture.
I can say whatever. Please don't start with me, George, please.
Oh, I'm just telling
Okay,
you, I mean,
please.
I understand you.
I don't. My next issue is with the community garden. And I had mentioned this, I believe, to the mayor when we had a conversation. Very positive things. I actually was part of starting, or helping to start. I'm not taking the credit. I don't want the credit. My friend started it. I assisted. And she networked with the Camden Children's Garden and establishing community gardens in Gloucester City. And over the past 3 years, it's grown. All the beds are taken. They've actually been able to purchase some wood, each have plots. They acquired mushroom compost, which I will swear by, the thing does miracles. So I know, like Gloucester, I know a few other towns might do it if you want to take a look at what other towns are doing as a model. One thing, if you're going to put up a community garden, it takes a lot of work. Question for Councilman Avellino: is there a reason why you voted no to having a part-time or temporary police clerk?
Well, I was annoyed by the fact that she's capable of coming to work. She hurt her knee. She considered it destiny.
Are you an MD?
No, but I know if my knee hurt, I could sit down and do my work at a desk.
You're not an MD,
No,
but you can tell someone else what's medically right or wrong.
I'm an X-ray specialist. I can bring her in and have her knee X-rayed.
Okay, so you don't care what the doctors say.
Well, I voted no because that's my opinion. I think she could come in and sit at a desk and do her job.
And if her doctors don't think so? If the borough's own doctors don't think so?
You got me. That was my opinion, and I voted no.
Okay, you voted no because you didn't trust what the doctors were telling the borough?
I voted no because I think she could come in and sit at a desk and do her job.
And why is that? Because your opinion, or because you don't trust the doctors?
Excuse me. If you want to put it that way.
That might be a good point.
Moving on.
I fell off a ladder and hurt my knee. I went to work every day. and the doctor told me not to go to work. You got me on camera?
I have two other issues that I want to bring up. One, I understand that I mentioned it before with the fire department. I was unaware there was a fire over at Worcester Towers. I understand also the mutual aid, when there's a call goes out, it goes out to Lindenwood, Laurel Springs, and Clementon. That Clementon PD was not available, okay, to show up, and Laurel Springs or Lindenwood showed up first. They had to break down that door. I would ask again that the Public Safety Committee address with the fire coordinator, whoever that is, whether it's Councilman Armbruster, whether it's Mayor Nicholson, address the issue of the lockbox with your fire coordinator, please. And not just for Worcester Towers, but for, you know, whether the strip malls, for businesses. A lot of towns do it. I would ask that would be addressed, please.
I might have, John, an answer to that. I didn't ask the question, but we have addressed that. And between the appropriate authorities, they felt that this one-time occurrence was a very rare occurrence, and they didn't feel it was a big problem. And there are other downsides to having the lock boxes, particularly when it comes to commercial properties. So that problem has been addressed by the appropriate authorities, and they feel they came up with an appropriate answer. And they're trying to put it to rest, but it keeps coming up.
Okay, oh, then I'm glad I got an answer. I didn't know it was actually addressed.
I can address
That's
the
all.
issue of lock boxes too, Mr.
And,
Mayor. It's called the Knox box. It's a secure box. That box has a code, a key code. It's issued only to the chief of police and the chief of the fire department within this town. They're only manufactured in one plant, and that plant is in California. So, and those boxes average a price from $200 on the low end to almost over $1,000. So, you know, it's not an issue of putting one in, it's just an issue of, you know, registering the town and everything else, and that becomes a pricey issue also.
There were other factors involved, obviously.
Oh, there's a lot of factors involved on the Knox box, I agree.
Someone couldn't get in, but at the same time, too, it was a rare situation that happened at one time in like 35 plus years. And with that many residents there, they really felt in an emergency, someone would let them in. So.
I got a question for the gentleman over here in
I
the
will.
green shirt.
Excuse me,
When he's done.
And I do have one other thing, and sometimes I ask tough questions, because I'm passionate. He's not here tonight. Let me express to, I believe, Councilman Armbruster, Councilman Weaver, the Public Safety Committee, on the job of Chief Freiling, I believe Sergeant McCann, and another patrolman from this department. I was heading down to Washington, D.C. Friday, not last Friday, the Friday before, for the Phillies National Series. And as I was pulling into the rest stop, the Maryland House, I you know, took out my phone and you know, was checking my phone, sending some text, gonna make a phone call or two, check my text messages, and I had actually just received, as I was parking, a text message. My phone goes off, and it was from a friend of mine, someone who's familiar to this borough. I've mentioned her name before at meetings, and she was having a cup of coffee with her husband and a friend of theirs who lives over in Pine Hill. So you know where the car wash is in Pine Hill, you make the street right after that car wash right there. And the resident in Pine Hill had been the resident who was on the news who complained and brought to light the mayor of Pine Hill getting a roof put on his house by the fire department. That's how I view it. And being defended by the fire chief, John Greer. And the fire chief showed up in his fire chief's truck, blocked them in. The guest went to the front door at the instruction of the homeowner, put her head out the door. The fire chief came up, banged on the glass door anyway with her head in the middle of it, started screaming, demanding to enter the house, demanding to speak to the homeowner and to this guest. And a phone call was made to 911. It had happened that I believe Pine Hill may have been tied up. 10 minutes had gone by. These people were threatened. The fire chief of Pine Hill is retired out of the CCPO. He carries. And I actually had called the police chief here. He was kind enough to send 2 officers over mutual aid because 2 people were under arrest in Pine Hill. Pine Hill was tied up. Somehow Central did not dispatch it. 2 cops showed up right away from Clementon. And I want to, I know they're very grateful, and myself, I want to extend that publicly and thank the professionalism of your police department for doing that. It was a very scary situation for them, and I just wanted to commend your police department. So, thank you.
Okay, I'm gonna close the public portion. Are you stretching or are you?
I am stretching. You don't have to worry about me. I'm not saying.